Welcome back to the STS Biology Review Pod. I'm Schuyler from Seattle Tutoring Services.
And I'm Leslie. Today we're diving into the molecules of life, those essential building blocks that make every cell, tissue, and organism possible. Last time, we set the stage by talking about acids, bases, and the chemical environment that keeps your proteins, DNA, and cells stable. But what are those big, complex molecules that run the show? That's where today's topic, macromolecules, takes the spotlight. So, what's a macromolecule? Think of these as the superheroes of the biological world. They're large, complex molecules made by stringing together smaller pieces called monomers. It's like building words with alphabet letters, or making a super long Lego chain out of little bricks. There are four main classes you need to know: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Each one has unique shapes and jobs, but together they run all the important processes of life. Whether it's moving muscles, storing energy, passing down genetic instructions, or fighting off germs, you can thank macromolecules. It's important to understand these molecules at both a chemical and a functional level. They're mostly made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, with a little nitrogen, sulfur, or phosphorus thrown in. That's because of carbon's special chemical stickiness. It can form up to 4 strong bonds, making it perfect for building complex structures. Alright, let's break down how macromolecules are made and broken apart. Every macromolecule starts out as little building blocks, monomers. Connect a bunch of these, and you get a long chain, or polymer. For example, glucose molecules link up to form starch, like pearls on a string. How do we connect these monomers? Through a chemical process called dehydration synthesis, or a condensation reaction. Here's the trick. Each time 2 monomers join, a water molecule is removed. But life's always about building and recycling. When we need to break a polymer apart, say, to digest food, we add water through hydrolysis. This splits the chain back into its smaller monomers. For example, when you eat starch, your body uses hydrolysis to break it down into glucose, which you can use for energy. Of course, these reactions don't happen automatically. Enzymes, a special category of proteins, speed up both the building and breaking apart of macromolecules, making life possible at normal body temperatures. Now, let's talk about our first major class, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are basically sugars in their polymers. They're made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in a 1-to-1 ratio. The simplest are monosaccharides, like glucose and fructose, 1 ring each. Link 2 together and you get a disaccharide, such as sucrose table sugar or lactose the sugar in milk. But carbohydrates really shine when they're in big chains, called polysaccharides. Plants store energy as starch, animals store it as glycogen, and both use cellulose and chitin for structure. Cellulose gives plants their rigidity. It's why celery snaps. Chitin, on the other hand, is found in the exoskeletons of insects and some fungi. So what do carbs actually do? First and foremost, they're a go-to energy source. Glucose is the fuel for cellular respiration. But carbs can also build things like plant cell walls and insect shells. Okay, on to the second major group, lipids. Lipids are a bit of an oddball because they aren't built from repeating identical monomers, but they're still crucial. They include fats, oils, phospholipids, and steroids. While carbs are usually water-loving, lipids are hydrophobic. They repel water. That's why oil and water don't mix. Let's focus on fats. They're made of a glycerol backbone and 3 fatty acid tails. Fats are fantastic for storing energy. In fact, fat stores more energy per gram than carbohydrates. But lipids have other roles too. Phospholipids are key. These molecules make up your cell membranes. Picture a sandwich with head groups facing water and tails tucked inside, keeping the watery insides of your cells separate from the watery outside world. Steroids, like cholesterol or hormones such as estrogen and testosterone, are also lipids. They play important roles in signaling and membrane fluidity. One more thing about fats. Saturated fats like butter are solid at room temperature. They have straight fatty acid tails. Unsaturated fats like olive oil are liquid, thanks to kinks in their tails caused by double bonds. Time to introduce the real workhorses of the cell, proteins. If macromolecules were characters in a movie, proteins would be the ones with the most screen time and diversity of roles. So, what are proteins made of? It all starts with amino acids. There are 20 different amino acids, and each has a common backbone. This consists of a central carbon attached to an amino group, a carboxyl group, a hydrogen atom, and something called an R group, the side chain that gives each amino acid its unique personality. Here's a memory device to recall all components of proteins. Remember the word arch. A for amino group, R for R group, C for carboxyl group, H for hydrogen atom. These amino acids link together with covalent bonds called peptide bonds. The process is, once again, dehydration synthesis. Water is removed and the amino acids snap together to form a polypeptide chain. Proteins have 4 levels of structure, and understanding them helps you see why shape equals function in biology. First, there's primary structure, just the sequence of amino acids. Then comes the secondary structure, where the chain coils or folds locally into shapes like an alpha helix. Or they might be beta-pleated sheets, held together by hydrogen bonds. The next level is tertiary structure, creating the protein's 3-dimensional shape. Here, interactions like ionic bonds, hydrogen bonds, hydrophobic effects, and even disulfide bridges stabilize the protein's form. And finally, some proteins consist of more than one polypeptide chain, coming together in a quaternary structure. Think hemoglobin or even spider silk. Shape is everything. Why? Because the protein's function depends on its 3-dimensional structure. Enzymes, which catalyze reactions, have a specifically shaped active site where the action happens. And what do proteins do? The better question is, what don't they do? They speed up chemical reactions as enzymes. They transport molecules. Like hemoglobin carries oxygen in your blood, they provide structure. Think of collagen in your skin or keratin in your hair. Antibodies are another example of proteins, defending you from infection. Proteins help with signaling like the hormone insulin. They also allow for movement using muscle proteins like actin and myosin. If a protein loses its shape through changes in heat, pH, or exposure to chemicals, it denatures. That means it's no longer functional. That's why a high fever can be dangerous. It can denature critical proteins in your body. Now, on to our final group, nucleic acids. They are not proteins, but these are incredibly important information macromolecules. Nucleic acids store, transmit, and use genetic instructions for life. Nucleic acids are made of monomers called nucleotides. Each nucleotide has 3 parts: a phosphate group, a 5-carbon sugar that's either ribose or deoxyribose, and a nitrogenous base. There are 2 main nucleic acids, DNA and RNA. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It contains the sugar deoxyribose and uses bases abbreviated as A, T, C, and G. Its famous double helix shape makes it super stable for long-term information storage. RNA is ribonucleic acid. It has the sugar ribose, is single-stranded, and uses uracil U instead of thymine T. RNA copies the information from DNA and helps build proteins. Nucleotides are linked together with phosphodiester bonds. Think of them as the backbone holding the nucleotide letters together in DNA or RNA. So what do these molecules do? DNA provides the blueprints for life. Your genetic code, passed from parent to offspring. RNA comes in 3 types. The first is messenger RNA, also called mRNA. Another type is transfer RNA, also called tRNA. Finally, in ribosomal RNA, also called rRNA. Each perform different jobs in the process of building proteins. And let's not forget a different nucleotide called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. It's the nucleotide that acts as the cell's rechargeable battery, fueling nearly every cellular process. Before we wrap up, let's tie everything together and look at some practical connections. Structure determines function, and that is extremely important in biology. Change a single part, like the sequence of amino acids in a protein or the base order in DNA, and you can get a completely different function, or sometimes a non-functional molecule altogether. All 4 macromolecule types have a role to play. DNA provides the instructions for making proteins. Proteins like enzymes build and break down carbohydrates and lipids, which supply energy and building materials for the cell. And these concepts have real impact. For example, lactose intolerance happens when someone lacks the enzyme lactase. That means those people can't break down milk sugar. The fats in our diet affect heart health by changing the types of lipids in our blood. Genetic diseases often originate from mutations in nucleic acids or proteins. Outside your body, scientists use this knowledge in all kinds of technology. Think CRISPR gene editing, where RNA can guide enzymes to target very specific DNA sequences for modification. Or a pharmaceutical company that engineer bacteria to make human insulin protein for people with diabetes. How about a memory device to remember all 4 macromolecules? We need to memorize nucleic acids, carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. How about NuCarLips? Quick reminder, if you want extra help acing AP Bio, join our weekly interactive review sessions. It's $65 per person, but if you organize a group with friends, it's just half price each. See the show notes, or go to seattletutoringservices.com or text 206-999-0666 to register.